There is absolutely zero doubt in my mind. Rachel Meghan Markle was a semi expensive yacht girl, and she knows it.
Many of you have seen this picture already. You see that there's Meghan with her Cajuna hat.
When Sarah Ferguson opened her mouth this time, the royal world froze. What she said was not gossip, it was dynamite. Everything happened because of Fergie. A single phrase that sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace, blindsided Prince Harry, and left Meghan Markle facing one of the most explosive rumors in royal history. It all started quietly, a casual conversation, a familiar smirk from Fergie, until one reporter caught the words that changed everything. Meghan was Andrew's first client. Instantly, headlines erupted, social media went feral, and within hours, the phrase Meghan's yacht days trended worldwide. But here is the part no one saw coming. This was not just a rumor from the shadows. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess who has been silenced, shunned, and resurrected more times than any royal in modern memory, was now hinting at something even darker. And she was not backing down. Behind closed doors, Harry was reportedly in shock. Palace aides were in a panic, and the firm's iron wall of silence began to crack. What could Fergie possibly mean by first client? Why no? And what secret past could tie Meghan Markle, the Hollywood actress turned Duchess, to Prince Andrew's infamous circles? This is not just another royal scandal. This is a story that threatens to reopen the monarchy's deepest wounds. And as more voices step forward, one question looms over every whispered conversation in Windsor. Did Fergie accidentally tell the truth? Or did she deliberately light the match that could burn everything down? Because what happened next, no one was ready for. Before we dive into the explosive details, it would mean the world to us at the Ruby Report if you would hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. We are dedicated to uncovering the stories behind the headlines, and if you are already hooked, smash that like button. It began like any other weekend in the royal circuit: discreet charity luncheons, polite smiles, and endless rehearsed grace. But beneath the surface, something was brewing. Whispers of an unguarded moment from Sarah Ferguson had already reached a few insiders before the public ever caught wind. At first, no one believed it. After all, Fergie had weathered decades of tabloid storms. She knew how one careless word could ignite a fire. Yet this time, she did not seem to care. During a private event in Mayfair, surrounded by a mix of old aristocrats and curious journalists, Fergie reportedly made a comment that landed like thunder. People forget, she said with a knowing grin, Meghan's first royal connection wasn't Harry. The room fell silent. Someone laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. It was not. Those words spread faster than champagne could be poured. Within hours, text messages were buzzing through the corridors of the palace. The phrase Andrew's first client began appearing in gossip group chats, then in newsroom drafts, then across Twitter feeds. Harry, according to one insider, did not want to believe it. He had heard rumors before, every royal had. But this was different. It came from inside the house, from someone who knew Andrew better than anyone alive. Suddenly, what could have been brushed off as idle chatter transformed into a full-blown credibility crisis. By midnight, royal correspondents were already piecing together timelines, linking Meghan's Hollywood past to Andrew's luxury yacht gatherings, events long shrouded in controversy. The palace's public relations machine scrambled, issuing quiet, no comments, while reporters sharpened their leads. Behind the gilded doors, the question no one dared to ask out loud simmered. Was Fergie exposing a secret the firm had buried, or was she settling an old score? And if it was revenge, this was only the beginning. Long before the royal tiaras, the global interviews, and the Montecito mansions, Meghan Markle lived in a world defined by ambition, networking, and reinvention. Hollywood was not kind to newcomers, and Meghan knew that better than anyone. Between small acting roles, red carpet events, and charity galas, she built her image brick by brick, always smiling, always strategic. But behind that polished veneer was a hunger to rise, to escape the anonymity that devoured so many hopefuls in Los Angeles. Friends from her early career recall her charm and her precision, how she could walk into a room full of producers and leave with everyone knowing her name. She moved effortlessly between social circles, blending with business moguls, celebrities, and even a few royal adjacent personalities who frequented the same luxury events. Among these gatherings were the elite yacht parties, lavish floating escapes where deals, introductions, and sometimes reputations were made. These were not the seedy scenes that tabloids like to paint, but they were not entirely innocent either. Connections forged there often came with whispers, favors, and unspoken debts. Rumors suggest that Meghan attended a few such gatherings while she was building her brand, seeking exposure among the elite. There is no hard proof, only fragments of sightings, unnamed sources, and suggestive photos that resurfaced years later. But it is exactly this fog of half-truths that gave Fergie's words their sting. By linking Meghan's yacht days to Prince Andrew's world, Ferguson did not just drop gossip. She rewrote Meghan's pre-royal timeline in the public's imagination. To the tabloids, it was irresistible, the actress who conquered Hollywood, then the palace, possibly connected to its most controversial figure. And whether it was true or not, the story had power because perception in the royal world is often more dangerous than proof. And Fergie knew that perfectly well. To grasp the full shock of Fergie's words, you have to step into the complicated shadow of Prince Andrew, a man once celebrated as a royal hero, now synonymous with scandal and disgrace. For years, Andrew moved through the world with unchecked privilege, basking in his title and his access to the global elite. From lavish island vacations to exclusive yacht parties off the coast of the Mediterranean, he was the embodiment of royal excess. Those who knew him described a man addicted to luxury, obsessed with his own status, and surrounded by people who enabled both. But the illusion crumbled fast. His associations with powerful financiers and questionable figures turned his name into a toxic headline. The infamous friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and his disastrous interview that left the monarchy completely humiliated. Each moment carved deeper cracks into his once pristine image. By the time Fergie's alleged comment surfaced, the world already viewed Andrew as the royal family's weakest link, the one they could not defend without facing serious consequences. That is what made this new connection to Meghan so incredibly explosive. Linking her to Andrew was not just a personal jab, it was a nuclear accusation. It tied the Duchess, who was already a polarizing figure in the public eye, to the darkest chapter in modern royal history. The mere suggestion that she might have crossed paths with Andrew's inner circle years before she ever married Harry gave the tabloids enough fuel to run wild for months. For the firm, this was a nightmare scenario. Two of the monarchy's most controversial figures suddenly entangled in a single, sordid narrative. And while Andrew stayed silent, tucked away from public life, Fergie's words gave his shadow new life, stretching straight across Meghan's carefully built public image. Because when Andrew's name enters the conversation, silence is no longer an option. When Sarah Ferguson speaks, the world usually listens out of a mix of curiosity and nostalgia. But this time, her words landed like a lightning strike across royal society. During what was supposed to be an off-the-record conversation at a discreet London soiree, Fergie reportedly leaned in and, with that mischievous glint she is famous for, dropped a sentence that froze the entire room. Let's just say, she allegedly whispered, Meghan was Andrew's first client. The tone was casual, almost playful, but everyone present felt the air shift. Those few words carried implications that could scorch reputations and end careers. Within hours, the alleged comment had leaked. By the next morning, journalists were circling like hawks, dissecting every single syllable. Did Fergie mean client as a coded jab, a metaphor for Meghan's calculated networking and social climbing? Or was she hinting at something far more literal, something darker, hidden in Andrew's controversial and murky past? The ambiguity of the word only fueled the frenzy. Fergie, for her part, neither confirmed nor denied the statement. Instead, she retreated into her usual mix of playful denial and coy charm, giving subtle smiles when she was questioned by reporters, the kind of knowing expression that says everything while revealing absolutely nothing. Palace insiders, however, were reportedly livid. Communications teams rushed to distance senior royals from the immediate fallout, while whispers spread that Fergie had gone off script again. But behind the manufactured outrage, a quieter truth lingered. She knew exactly what she was doing. Ferguson's entire public life has thrived on her ability to walk the tightrope between confession and chaos. This bombshell was not a slip of the tongue, it was a calculated spark. By aligning Meghan's name with Andrew's infamy, Fergie did not just stir up old gossip, she completely reshaped the royal narrative. Suddenly, Meghan's public silence looked suspicious. Harry's defensive anger seemed justified, and the world waited for a response that never came. And just when the storm began to settle, another crucial question emerged: why now? Every royal revelation comes with a motive, and Sarah Ferguson's bombshell was no exception. To understand why she might drop such a loaded statement at that particular moment, you have to trace her own complicated dance with the monarchy, a story marked by exile, redemption, and endless reinvention. Fergie has never been a stranger to scandal herself. From her infamous toe-sucking headlines to her various financial controversies and public apologies, she has lived through the full cycle of royal disgrace and survival. Each time the royal family pushed her out, she has managed to claw her way back into relevance, always smiling, always gracious, but always calculating. So why mention Meghan now? Some insiders believe it is simple revenge, subtle payback for years of being treated as an outsider by the same institution that later, for a time, embraced Meghan. Others see it as Fergie reclaiming her own power, reasserting herself in a narrative that has long sidelined her. There is also the very real possibility that she is simply playing the media game she knows so well, stirring up a bit of controlled chaos to boost her own visibility at a time when royal attention is shifting elsewhere. It is equally possible that Ferguson thought she was, in a twisted way, defending Andrew, attempting to divert some of the intense scrutiny from his name by creating a new, more exciting distraction. Whatever her reasoning was, one fact is clear: Fergie understands timing better than anyone. She has survived decades of public humiliation by mastering the art of selective truth-telling, giving the press just enough to feed on while somehow keeping herself indispensable. This moment might be her boldest gamble yet. In one single sentence, she managed to redirect global attention, reopen the monarchy's deepest wounds, and insert herself back into the headlines she once ruled. Whether it was a product of strategy or desperation, Fergie has once again proven her undeniable talent for creating chaos. And the real question is, what did she expect to gain from setting this massive fire? The morning after Fergie's alleged comment hit the tabloids, Buckingham Palace was in quiet crisis mode. There was no official statement, no press briefing, just a wall of silence thicker than the palace gates themselves. Behind that calm, institutional exterior, however, chaos reigned. Advisors were shuffling between emergency meetings, phones were buzzing nonstop, and senior courtiers were debating how to contain a story that had already spiraled far beyond their control. Every single branch of the royal family suddenly found itself under a new wave of scrutiny, and no one wanted to be the first to react. Prince Harry, according to a source close to his circle, was furious, but deeply conflicted. The rumor had humiliated him publicly, yet he knew that any kind of angry outburst would only make things worse. Meghan reportedly withdrew completely, avoiding cameras and postponing all her public appearances. Her team worked overtime, quietly reviewing potential legal responses and trying to strategize a way out of the mess. While the couple's detractors celebrated the chaos online, the tension inside the Sussex camp was palpable, not just because of the accusation itself, but because of who it had come from. Fergie was not an anonymous critic on the internet, she was family. Meanwhile, senior royals distanced themselves from the situation, pretending a kind of neutrality while they monitored every single headline. Behind the scenes, damage control became an art form. Advisors coordinated with friendly media outlets, trying to steer the public's focus back to charitable events and official royal duties. But the story refused to die. The phrase "Andrew's first client" lingered in headlines like a cloud of smoke that just would not clear. In the private corridors of the palace, resentment was brewing. Some accused Fergie of a deep betrayal, others whispered that she might have been set up herself. But what united them all was a sense of fear, the fear that another major royal scandal, this time involving Meghan, could reopen the deep wounds left by Andrew's public downfall. The monarchy thrives on control, but this time, that control was slipping. And just when they thought they had seen the worst of it, the continuing silence from Meghan began to speak volumes. By dawn, the entire royal machine was running on a volatile mix of panic and protocol. Aides rushed into meetings with tight, stressed faces, carrying folders labeled urgent, while they pretended that everything was completely under control. The firm's golden rule, never explain, never complain, suddenly felt incredibly fragile. Sarah Ferguson's remark had detonated across the global media landscape, and now the royal family's entire reputation was back under siege. Inside the private offices, damage control unfolded with an almost military precision. Advisors drafted no comment responses while senior royals debated whether to publicly distance themselves from Fergie or just let the story burn itself out. But the problem was much bigger than simple optics. It was about trust. Fergie's comment did not come from an outsider. It came from within their own intimate circle. And that kind of betrayal, that hit harder than any tabloid headline ever could. Harry, sources whispered, was deeply unsettled. He did not know whether to confront Fergie directly or just let his lawyers handle it. Meghan, meanwhile, stayed completely out of sight, and her public silence only amplified the speculation. Even the palace staff noticed the change in tension. Doors closed faster than usual, voices were lowered in the hallways, and every public smile seemed rehearsed and brittle. Every single word spoken risked becoming tomorrow's damaging headline. Meanwhile, the royal courtiers tried to pivot public attention back toward royal duties, but the public was not buying it. The story had grown teeth. Every press appearance, every photo opportunity now carried the heavy weight of unanswered questions. Behind their polished smiles, the royals were holding their breath, just praying that the scandal would pass like so many had before it. But this time, it felt different. The threat was not coming from the outside world. It was blooming from within their own bloodline. As the dust begins to settle, if it ever truly can, one truth remains crystal clear. This story has changed the royal landscape forever. What began as a seemingly offhand remark from Sarah Ferguson has now evolved into a full-blown crisis of loyalty, image, and power. Meghan's continued silence still looms like a storm cloud over Montecito. Harry's trust in his own family feels deeply shaken, and the royal institution once again finds itself fighting against ghosts it thought were buried for good. But perhaps that is the enduring pattern of this particular family. Every single time they try to control the narrative, another long-buried secret finds its way to the surface. The question now is not whether Fergie went too far, but what else she might be hiding. Because if this is what she is willing to say in public, you have to imagine what is still being whispered behind the palace walls. And if you thought this story was shocking, wait until you see how deep the next one goes. In our previous video, Prince Andrew and Fergie left stunned after King Charles exposes this. We uncovered how the king's calculated move completely blindsided Andrew and sent royal loyalties spinning out of control. If you missed it, make sure to watch that next. It ties perfectly into this tangled royal web. This is the Ruby Report, where the truth glimmers even in the deepest shadows. Stay curious, stay bold, and remember, in the world of royalty, nothing is ever truly private. Watch our last episode now, before the next royal shockwave hits.